There's a message you send out every single day, even when you don't say a word. It arrives before your voice, before your ideas, before your intentions. That message is the way you care for your appearance. Not in a shallow sense, but in the deepest one. Care is a reflection of the value you believe you have. When you neglect yourself, the world learns to neglect you too. When you take care of yourself, something shifts in the air. Your posture, your gaze, the way you occupy space. Caring about your appearance isn't about pleasing others. It's about aligning your outer self with the woman you're becoming on the inside. It's a silent act of self-respect, presence, and practical self-love. Many women only realize this too late, after years of hiding, shrinking, putting themselves last. But the truth is simple. When you start treating yourself like someone who matters, life responds differently. If that makes sense to you, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and stick with me. Because the next points might not only change how you see yourself, but how the world sees you too. First topic. The way you present yourself teaches the world how to treat you. For a long time, I believed appearance was secondary, that what really mattered was on the inside. And yes, what's inside does matter, but it communicates through the outside. The world doesn't have direct access to your intentions, your values, or your intelligence. It reacts to what it sees, to what it picks up from you, to the unspoken signals you send. An appearance is a silent language everyone reads. I realized this on an ordinary day, walking into a place I had been many times before. Nothing had changed on the outside except me. I was more in tune with myself, more attentive to the details, more present in my own body. People looked at me differently, listened to me differently, treated me differently, and that's when it hit me. I wasn't asking for respect. I was showing it. Taking care of your appearance isn't vanity. It's alignment. It's making sure who you are inside matches what you show on the outside. When you take care of yourself, you communicate confidence, clarity, self-worth. When you don't, even without realizing it, you send the opposite message. And the world responds accordingly. It's not about fitting in or meeting other people's standards. It's about not hiding. It's about taking up your own space with presence. It's about looking in the mirror and recognizing the woman you're becoming. If you've ever felt like you're not taken seriously in certain environments, it's worth asking. What is your image saying before you even speak? Comment, "My image reflects my worth." This affirmation reinforces your decision to show up with more awareness, and that changes everything. Second topic. Taking care of your appearance is a practical form of self-love. There's a kind of self-love that stays in words only, and there's the kind that shows up in your everyday choices. Taking care of your appearance belongs to the second kind. It's when you choose, even when tired, to wear something that represents you. It's when you fix your hair, moisturize your skin, look in the mirror, and don't abandon yourself. Not out of obligation, but out of respect. I realized this during a phase when I said I loved myself, but treated myself as a last priority. I'd throw on whatever, ignore my reflection, tell myself I didn't have time for me. And the curious thing is, along with that silent neglect came a constant sense of discouragement. I didn't feel beautiful or confident or motivated. Until one day I understood. It wasn't a lack of self-esteem. It was a lack of practical care. When I started to care for myself with intention, something shifted inside me. It wasn't instant, but it was deep. Every small action became a daily reminder. I matter. And when you start treating yourself that way, the world follows. Your posture shifts. Your energy shifts. Your way of expressing yourself shifts. Caring for your appearance isn't about perfection. It's about presence. It's about not abandoning yourself in the chaos of life. It's about creating a quiet ritual of reconnection with yourself. If you've been feeling invisible lately, maybe it's not about lacking potential. Maybe it's just a lack of care for yourself. Comment, "I choose myself every day." This affirmation strengthens your commitment to treat yourself with the respect you truly deserve. Third topic. When you take care of yourself, your posture changes even before your life does. Something happens before any external transformation. Your body understands. Before your reality changes, your posture shifts. Before new opportunities show up, the way you walk, sit, look, and take up space transforms. And often it all starts with taking care of your appearance, not because clothes or looks create value, but because they awaken a different presence within you. I noticed this in a simple, almost ordinary moment. It was a day with no important plans, but I decided to get ready anyway. Not to go out, not to be seen, just for me. When I looked in the mirror, something felt different. I stood taller. I was more alert, more connected to myself. And that's when I realized how, for so long, I had been walking around hunched over, almost apologizing for existing. Taking care of your appearance has that quiet power. It tells your body you're worth the attention. And when your body receives that message, it responds with confidence. Your posture aligns, your voice becomes firmer, your presence gets stronger, and people notice, even if they can't explain why. A lot of women think they need to feel confident first in order to take care of themselves. But it's actually the other way around. Care generates confidence. Action comes before emotion. When you treat yourself with more intention, your brain records that as self-worth and starts to act accordingly. If you feel like your presence has been dim lately, maybe it's not a lack of ability. Maybe it's just a lack of seeing yourself as someone who deserves to take up space. There's an invisible line between looking after yourself on the outside and truly feeling secure on the inside. Many women try to boost their confidence, change their posture and presence, but they're still stuck in a tense relationship with money, and that insecurity shows up in their eyes, in their decisions, in the way they enter a room. Because it's hard to hold on to confidence when, deep down, there's still fear of scarcity or dependency. That's why I created the Wealth Code, a simple and accessible guide to change your relationship with money, build financial security, and live with the peace of choosing your own path. It's not just about finances. It's about autonomy, peace of mind, and true freedom. If you feel like it's time to strengthen that foundation, the link is in the first pinned comment. Fourth topic. Neglecting your appearance is often an unconscious form of self-abandonment. Not many people like to admit this, but there's a direct connection between how you feel inside and how much you allow yourself to care for your appearance. In many cases, neglecting how you look doesn't come from a lack of time or money. It comes from emotional exhaustion. It's when you've pushed yourself to the background so many times that you start believing you're not worth the effort. And that quiet abandonment slowly chips away at your self-esteem. I went through that phase. I used to say getting ready didn't make a difference, that it was silly, that there were more important things to focus on. But deep down, I was just tired of trying. Tired of looking at myself. Tired of not recognizing who I saw. Every time I left the house without any care, it felt like I was silently telling myself, it doesn't matter. And that hurts more than you'd think. Taking care of your appearance is a simple yet powerful act of presence. It's telling the mirror, I'm still here. When you start treating yourself with more attention, even on regular days, something begins to rebuild inside. It's not vanity, it's reconnection. It's remembering that you didn't stop being important just because life got hard. Many women wait to feel good again before they start caring for themselves. But most of the time, care is exactly what brings that feeling back. It doesn't fix everything, but it gives you something to hold on to. A small ritual that anchors you back to yourself. If you've been feeling invisible or unmotivated, maybe it's not lack of strength. Maybe it's just that you haven't been treating yourself with the same kindness you give to everyone else. Comment, I don't abandon myself anymore. This affirmation marks the beginning of a kind of care that doesn't rely on your mood, but on the decision to value yourself. Fifth topic. Daily care builds identity, not just looks. There's a huge difference between getting ready occasionally and taking care of yourself every day. The first is an event. The second is identity. When self-care becomes a routine, it stops being an effort and starts being who you are. And that completely changes how you see yourself and how the world responds to you. I realized this when I stopped treating care as something extra. Before, I only got ready when I had a reason. A date, a meeting, a special occasion. On regular days, I'd put myself last. Until I understood I was tying my worth to external situations. It was like telling myself, it's only worth it if someone's going to see me. When I made self-care a daily practice, even on the simplest days, something shifted inside me. It wasn't about makeup or new clothes. It was about intention. Brushing my hair slowly, choosing clothes that represented me, caring for my skin as if I were caring for something precious. Those small gestures started to create a sense of inner consistency. I was the same woman every day, not just when I needed to show up. Consistent care builds coherence. It strengthens your identity. You stop swinging so much between good days and bad days because you begin to rely on something steady, self-respect. And when that identity solidifies, confidence stops being fragile. It no longer depends on compliments, validation, or circumstances. If you feel like your self-esteem is all over the place, maybe it's not a lack of self-love. Maybe it's just a lack of consistency in your care. Comment, my care builds who I am. This affirmation reinforces your choice to treat yourself as someone valuable, every day, not just when it's convenient. Sixth topic, appearance is energy. People feel it before they understand it. Before anyone understands who you are, they feel who you are. And your appearance acts like a silent, energetic field that speaks before any words. It's not about fitting beauty standards. It's about alignment. When you take care of yourself, there's coherence between how you feel inside and what you express outside. And that alignment is instantly noticed. I saw this in very simple situations. Walking into a room and noticing people making space, conversations flowed with more respect. People held their gaze. Nothing had changed on the outside, except how I felt in my own skin. My body was present, my posture open, my gaze steady, and that all came from my daily self-care. Appearance is an extension of your energy. When you take care of yourself, you ground yourself in your own body. You take up space with more confidence, and that confidence is felt. People trust more, listen more, respect more. Not because you asked for it, but because you radiated it. Many women try to force confidence through words, titles, or roles. But real confidence is born in how you feel when you look in the mirror. When you recognize yourself there, the world recognizes you too. If you've ever felt like you're not taken seriously, take a moment to notice. What's your energetic presence like when you enter a space? Comment, "My energy speaks for me." This affirmation strengthens the understanding that you don't need to convince, just align. 7th topic. When you care for yourself, you stop seeking validation. There's a quiet turning point in the self-care journey when something shifts deeply. You stop needing the world to confirm your worth. That's because daily care builds such a solid internal foundation that external validation loses its power. You already recognize yourself before anyone else does. I noticed this when my behaviors started to change effortlessly. I wasn't chasing compliments anymore. I wasn't comparing myself as much. I wasn't walking into rooms trying to prove something. I just was, and that was new. Before, I dressed based on how others might see me. Then, I started dressing based on how I wanted to feel in my own skin. That switch changed everything. When you care for your appearance as a form of self-respect, your self-esteem stops being fragile. It no longer depends on likes, comments, or approval. And that's liberating. Because when you don't need validation, you make better choices. You accept less. You speak with more clarity. Many women confuse care with vanity because they were taught to measure themselves through others' eyes. But real care is intimate. It happens when no one is watching. And that's exactly why it's so powerful. If you feel like other people's opinions still affect you too much, maybe it's not insecurity. Maybe it's just a lack of an internal foundation built with daily acts of self-respect. Comment, "I validate myself." This affirmation marks the beginning of an emotional freedom that few ever reach. But that completely transforms the way you live. 8th topic. Taking care of your appearance is taking responsibility for your presence. There comes a moment in life when you realize no one is going to see you for you. No one will announce your worth, stand up for your presence, or take up space on your behalf. That realization doesn't come from anger. It comes from maturity. At that point, caring for your appearance stops being about looks and starts being about responsibility. It's you telling the world without a word, "I'm here, aware of who I am." I realized this when I stopped waiting for recognition. For a long time, I believed that if I was competent, kind, and hardworking, someone would notice. But the world is far too noisy for subtlety without intention. When I started to take care of my image more consciously, something shifted. I wasn't waiting to be noticed anymore. I was showing up. Owning your presence means understanding that the way you present yourself directly affects how you're treated. It's not about controlling other people's perception. It's about not letting it be shaped by neglect. When you take care of yourself, you send a clear signal of self-respect, organization, and confidence. And that signal opens doors that words alone never could. Many women hide without realizing it. They shrink in their clothing, their posture, their expression. Not because they want to, but because they never learned they could take up space without asking for permission. Caring for your appearance is a quiet way of stepping out of that place. If you feel like you still blend in too much or go unnoticed in important spaces, maybe it's not a lack of talent. Maybe it's just a lack of intention in how you show up. Comment, "I own my presence." This affirmation marks the decision to stop hiding behind lack of care. 9th topic. The appearance you maintain shapes the future you accept. There's a direct connection between how you present yourself today and the kind of life you believe is possible tomorrow. The appearance you carry each day isn't just a reflection of the present. It's a silent agreement with the future you believe you deserve. When you treat yourself carelessly, you begin to accept less respect, fewer opportunities, less care from others. Not as punishment, but as a reflection of the message you're sending. I noticed this when I saw a frustrating pattern. Whenever I was careless with myself, I also accepted situations that diminished me. Shallow conversations, uninspiring environments, relationships where I had to explain myself too much. It was like I was silently saying, "This is enough," and life agreed. When I began to take care of my appearance with intention, not to impress, but to honor myself, something shifted in the way I chose. I started saying no more. I became more selective about where I went, who I spent time with, and what I tolerated. Not because I became arrogant, but because I became aware. Daily care raised my internal standards, and those standards began guiding my decisions. Your appearance is a daily reminder of what you expect from life. It reminds you, every day, whether you're treating yourself as someone who deserves more, or someone who settles for less. And that reminder slowly shapes the future you allow yourself to live. If you want to change your reality, ask yourself honestly, is the woman you see in the mirror prepared for the life you say you want? Comment, "My care raises my standards." This affirmation reinforces the commitment to never again negotiate your worth, not today and not in the future. 10th topic. Taking care of your appearance is a daily commitment to who you're becoming. In the end, caring for your appearance isn't about today, it's about consistency. It's a quiet vote you cast every day that says, "I won't give up on myself," even when you're tired, even when no one's watching, even when there's no immediate reward. That daily commitment builds something rare, internal steadiness. I understood this when I realized the biggest risk wasn't aging, failing, or changing. It was abandoning myself in the process. For a long time, I only cared for myself when things were going well. When life got tough, I'd push myself aside. Until I saw that, on the hard days, I needed myself the most. Self-care became emotional support. A daily reminder that even in messy seasons, I was still showing up. When you care for your appearance with awareness, you create a ritual of continuity. You see yourself every day as someone worthy of attention, respect, and dignity. And that repetition builds identity. Not a performative one, but a solid one. You begin to trust yourself more, to listen to yourself more, to abandon yourself less. That's the quiet power of care. It's with you on the good days, and holds you up on the hard ones. It doesn't rely on applause or validation. It exists because you chose to treat yourself well, regardless of circumstances. If you want to become a more confident, grounded, and self-aware woman, start where it all begins, with how you treat yourself when no one's watching. Comment, "I honor who I'm becoming." This affirmation seals your commitment to staying present with yourself over time. Taking care of your appearance isn't superficial or shallow. It's positioning. It's energy. It's silent language. It's self-love in practice. Throughout this video, you've seen how care shifts your posture, strengthens your identity, reduces your need for validation, raises your standards, and builds a solid inner foundation. When you take care of yourself, you don't ask for worth, you demonstrate it. And the world responds accordingly, not because you became someone else, but because you finally started treating yourself like someone who matters. If this content resonated with you, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and drop this in the comments. I choose to value myself in silence, because often the biggest transformation isn't announced, it's felt.